Holy crap, it's been one of those days. A lot of news, moving parts, and we are going to bring you the very latest on this. So Bernie Sanders speaking just a short time ago. Bernie Sanders, of course, has been the one who, if there are direct stimulus checks coming to you and your family, you can thank him for this. Along with Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, they came together and said, we will not leave Washington until direct stimulus checks are in the hands of the American people. So good for them. That is why this new stimulus legislation that's being discussed right now is edging towards $900 billion, and direct stimulus checks are a part of this package. Well, Bernie Sanders, just a few minutes ago, speaking with Wolf Blitzer, talking about whether or not he would support this direct stimulus plan of $900 billion, because he wants $1,200 in stimulus checks and $500 per dependent in the family, upwards of $2,400, right? Well, now the negotiations have led us down a path where they are $600 or possibly $700. Remember, this is not final. This is still fluid at this hour. These are back and forth negotiations. And as the way Joe Manchin explained it, Senator Joe Manchin, we're handing slips of paper back and forth to each other. I can almost imagine it's like, horse trading, or we're sitting at lunch and I'm writing on the back of an envelope and handing it to you. That's the way this thing is going right now. I guess that's the way it works in Washington. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Smash that like button, please, and subscribe. All you need to do, see that little Santa hat right down here? Just hit that subscribe button. We do our show every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, but we're doing extra coverage here during this economic turmoil through the new year. So thank you so much for showing your support. Okay, Bernie Sanders, who has been pushing for this additional stimulus checks for American families, spoke just a few minutes ago to Wolf Blitzer and outlined whether or not he would support this new $900 billion plan. And I think you can read between the lines on some of this, and we're hearing from his office that he's not fully on board with this. But listen to Bernie Sanders answer the question as to whether or not he supports this watered down version of stimulus checks.
Senator, thanks so much for joining us. And I know this is an issue that is close to your heart. You've been critical of the current coronavirus relief proposals, saying they simply don't go far enough to do what is really needed. But from your perspective, on the latest information you're getting, what's missing?
Well, number one, the entire bill at $900 billion is much too low. It should be at least double that. So what's in this current bill is good, but it's not enough. Now,
So, okay, it's good, but it's not enough. So we've got 2 days left, right? December 18th, government shutdown. And the only reason we have direct stimulus checks in this current draft version of the bill is because of this guy right there wearing a mask, Bernie Sanders. Josh Hawley also on the Republican side. But it's Bernie Sanders who brought this up to begin with, and was going to bring it to the Senate floor in a up or down vote if they did not include this in the bill, which might have led to a government shutdown. Right there. Now it's a watered down version of it. He says it needs to be double what it is now. Okay, well, will you support it? Will you vote for it? There's something else at play here.
I recognized a couple of weeks ago that there were no direct payments going out to people in this country, many of whom are in desperate economic shape. As you well know, Wolf, we got a record-breaking level of hunger in America, higher than it's been for a very, very long time. You got millions of people who are facing eviction.
Okay, fact check. Is he right, or is he just blowing smoke? True. So we got economic news this afternoon on the amount of Americans that have now slipped into poverty. We've seen the greatest descent into poverty in American history since the summer. The data that's just out, 8 million additional Americans have slipped into poverty since this summer. It's the greatest descent into poverty in American history. So if you're sitting back there on your golden throne wondering whether or not socialist Bernie Sanders is blowing smoke up your ass, no, this is true. This is what people are dealing with. I got this from a viewer. I'm sorry to derail this, but I got this from a viewer this morning. A viewer sent this to me, this tweet, It said, Clayton, Mr. Morris, I watch your show every day, and I thank you for your integrity in news reporting, and I know how deeply you care, so I wanted to share this. I've attached a picture of a sticky note that an Uber Eats delivery driver left my wife and I. They ordered Uber Eats last night. Here was the sticky note that David Baldwin and his wife received. Due to COVID, I lost my work. Please help me to keep this work going. Please give me a star in the app, the Uber Eats app, if you think that my service deserves it. I'm trying to feed my family in my house and during these hard times. Thanks. Have a nice day. God bless America. I showed that to my wife this morning, and she just she said, I can't believe this. So is Bernie full of shit? No.
They can't afford to pay their rent. They're going deeper into debt. And we're looking at people in the midst of the worst pandemic in 100 years who can't afford to go to the doctor because they don't have enough money.
Is that true? Yes. So the new data on people going to doctors' offices, people are foregoing their copay visits. They're not going to the doctor's offices. Because they can't afford it during a pandemic. This government has failed. And one of the few people talking about its failures is this guy. So will he support it? Let's go on.
So what I have fought for, along with a Republican Senator Hawley of Missouri, is to make sure there are direct payments similar to what we did in the CARES Act in March. And that would be $1,200 for every working class person in America, people under 75,000, a couple under 150,000, and $500 for each of their children. So a family of four would get $3,400, which is not insignificant in this.
Yeah, it's not insignificant. It's also not enough. Okay, so it's not insignificant because the average rent that people are behind right now is over $5,000. So if you add up everything that he just said, it's still under what people are behind when it comes to paying rent in this country. $5,400 is the average amount that Americans are behind on their rent. So it's not insignificant. $3,400 is not insignificant. It's still not enough. So now when we hear the framework of this bill that's unfolding before us, where we would have $600 in stimulus checks going out to the American people and a watered down version of unemployment benefits, thanks to these corporate Washington insiders, Pelosi, McConnell, these bought and sold politicians who can't put together a deal, will Bernie support it?
Moment when so many people are hurting.
But just to be precise, that yet hasn't been accepted, what you want, right?
That is right. Where we're at right now, as I understand it, is we're between $600 and $700 for adults and $600 for children. So we are making progress, but I want us to go even further, because I think when you ask people out on the street, what is the most important thing the government can do in this terrible, terrible moment, they will say, give us some help. We need some help right now to pay the bills. And that's what we're trying to do.
Researchers have found, Senator, that since June, it's hard to believe this is happening in our country, some 7.8 million Americans have fallen into poverty. Now, these are people who had jobs, were making a living, they were paying the rent, buying food, doing what they needed to do, but now they are in poverty right now. And it's hard to believe this is going on. And what's so frustrating to me and so many others, why is it taking so long to help these millions of Americans?
Is he right on those numbers? Well, the Washington Post has a breakdown of those numbers, and it's at 8 million. So Wolf is even underplaying it. It says 7.8 million. Have slipped into poverty since the summer. By the way, do you know what kept them out of poverty? Stimulus checks.
Well, I don't want to become overly political here, but it is clear to me that we have a Republican majority here in the Senate who has refused to entertain, and still refuses to entertain, the kind of funding that is needed to provide nutrition, to help people who are being evicted. to make sure that people in this crisis, can you believe it, in the midst of this terrible pandemic, everyone's afraid of getting the virus, and you got 90 million people who are unable to go to the doctor when they get sick. So many of us had fought for adequate funding, and we've met very stiff resistance from Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership. But, what we got now is not enough, but it is something.
It's not enough, but we got something. So, it gives a good slam to Mitch McConnell, who we now know the only reason tonight, we got reporting on this from Jake Sherman and others, that the only reason these direct stimulus checks are in this package right now is because of what's going on in Georgia and the Georgia runoff election. So apparently on a conference call earlier today, Mitch McConnell, talking with Senate Republicans, said that David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler in Georgia, incumbents, are being slaughtered. His words are hammered because of lack of stimulus checks. Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? So you mean Georgians actually want stimulus checks as well? And they're hurting too, just like real Americans? That's so surprising. Shocking, really. And so on that conference call, he doesn't give a shit about you. What he's saying is the Georgia runoff election, Kelly and David Perdue, they're running and they're just getting hammered. They're just getting hammered right now because turns out their constituents are hurting and they need stimulus checks. So, we probably should include stimulus checks in this package because, they're just we're going to lose. And by the way, he will lose power as Senate Majority Leader if the Georgia runoff election doesn't go the way that he wants. That's the only reason. Bernie Sanders putting pressure on a shutdown and Georgia runoff. I'm telling you what, if we didn't have this Georgia runoff election, there wouldn't be a stimulus check in this package. Mark my words. So right now, it's Bernie Sanders saying, okay, I'm willing to take this crappy, watered down version, $600 stimulus checks, knowing that in a month, almost 30 days, when Joe Biden is officially sworn in, we will push through a massive stimulus package. I'm telling you right now, according to my sources in Washington, they're already laying the framework for this. They're already laying the groundwork for a massive stimulus package under Biden. If the Georgia runoff goes the way that Democrats hope it does, Mitch McConnell gets tossed out of the leadership role, Joe Biden is inaugurated, with the stroke of a pen, a number of executive actions, and additionally, a massive stimulus package, almost on day one. That afternoon after the inauguration, goes back to the Oval Office, and one of his first few executive actions is a massive stimulus package. Is that what Bernie is banking on?
And I'm just simply happy to say that as we enter the holiday season, when so many people are worried about how they're going to pay their bills, whether they're going to get evicted, whether they're going to feed their kids, at least, among other things, there'll be $600 per adult and $600 per child as well. So that's a start. I want to do better.
So obviously, even though
it's a start, I want to do better. So I'm not a betting man, but I've covered Washington for many, many years. Okay. And that's when you're hearing him being conciliatory here, that's what's unfolding. That to get this through, just get this thing done. And in 30 days, when Biden is in, now we're going to unleash the Kraken.
you want more, you'll vote in favor of this compromise, whatever emerges. Is that right?
I want to read the bill. It's a long, long bill. But I'm feeling good that we have made some progress, at least. A week ago, as you know, nobody was talking about direct payments. We got something in the bill, and I want to thank my progressive friends in the House for their good work on this. We're making some progress.
Yeah. I'm telling you what, pay attention to this. The progressives in the House, AOC, Ilhan Omar, the list goes on. And Bernie Sanders, and yes, Republican Josh Hawley, we can't leave him out, even though he went off the deep end this afternoon saying, crazy fraud stuff with President Trump and election. It's like if you can separate the crazy for a minute. Maybe he felt like his constituents in Missouri wouldn't respect the fact that he teamed up with Bernie. So then he had to go off the deep end on the crazy, saying that he might not certify election results. I mean, whatever. Just crazy, you know, put it in that bag. So these progressives came to the table, and that's the power of having people that aren't bought and sold by big corporations. It can happen. It can move the needle. So anyone out there who thinks, you know what, I just give up, you know, I'm not going to be able to support this type of a movement. I can't get behind progressive candidates because they're just never going to be able to. This is what happens, folks. The fact that there's even an inkling of a direct stimulus check in this bill is because progressives stood together and demanded it, or a government shutdown. And you saw Bernie Sanders lead this pack, and you saw Mitch McConnell kowtow to that. It's beautiful to watch, isn't it? Turtle boy, Mitch McConnell, had to put his little tail between his legs.
Because, you know, as I often say, and I've said it to the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, and others, when you're dealing with a crisis like this, you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because so many millions of people out there are suffering. You might not get everything, Senator, but you're going to get a bunch that will make life better for these people, right?
Well, one of the other things that we're going to get is extended unemployment benefits. As you've indicated, unemployment is very high. A lot of people have no income. It, again, doesn't go as far as I would want, but I think we're talking about a supplement of $300 on top of regular unemployment. I think it's now for 13 weeks. And also, I should point out, Wolf, importantly, that I think President-elect Biden fully understands the nature of the crisis. As soon as his administration is in office, I think we can expect to see a significant step forward in addressing a lot of what was not dealt with in this bill. So this is, in a sense, a down payment. This is not the end of the discussion. The American people, working families, are hurting. We have got to respond. We're doing something now. We'll do more when Biden takes office.
When do you
There you go. Okay, you answered it right there. This is just a down payment. Okay, so can we get through the holiday with this being a quote unquote down payment, watered down because of Mitch McConnell and the corporatists in Congress? Joe Manchin, I'm looking at you, punk. I'm looking at you, who said we don't need direct stimulus payments. We don't need direct stimulus checks. You're on record, buddy. I hope West Virginians wake up and start to pay attention to what this guy represents for West Virginians. You think he's got your back? You think he goes to Washington and has got your back? I lived in West Virginia. I lived in Bluefield, West Virginia. I lived adjacent to one of the poorest counties in the entire country. You think he's got your back? Pay attention. He didn't want direct stimulus checks for working for West Virginians who are suffering right now, who can't put food on the table, don't have health insurance. Didn't think it was important to fight for that. You're on notice, buddy. You're on notice. Time to shake things up in that state, my friends.
you expect this vote to happen? It's got to happen within the next few days, but do you have a timeline?
I don't think anybody really knows that right now.
So we don't know when we're going to have a vote. So any sort of BS, YouTube video, clickbait bullshit that you're seeing over the next 24 hours, new bill is here, approved, Trump signs, like I see all these like hilarious YouTube videos with clickbait stuff, ignore it. We don't know when we don't even have a final bill yet, folks, okay? We don't have a final bill. It's in draft phase. They're still horse trading back and forth. We don't know. These senators haven't even read it. They're not going to put it up for a vote until they've had a chance to read the bill. And right now, according to draft legislation, it's upwards of 600 pages. Like I've got books on my shelf over there that are that long. It takes me like a month to read that. Okay? So this coming up for a vote tomorrow is not going to happen. I could be shocked, but I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. So any of these BS clickbait videos out there, don't pay attention to them until there's an actual bill and there's an actual floor vote and it comes out of committee. We're not doing anything, okay? But the real question is, hey, we're on a Friday deadline of December 18th. These guys go home. What's going to happen?
But you're going to stay in D.C. until this is done. You're not going back to Vermont.
I am not, and I don't think anybody can or should. We cannot go back to our families when so many families in this country are hurting right now.
Boom. Again, it's a shame this guy is not the president-elect. I'm telling you right now. This is the reason Bernie Sanders pushing for stimulus checks and then pushing the progressives in the House to get off their asses and do something is the reason we have anything right now on direct stimulus checks. Make no mistake about it. There was no movement until the threat of a shutdown and using the power and the leverage of the Senate to do that. Good for Bernie, and good for those progressives in the House that stood by him. And hey, good for Josh Hawley, Senate Republican. However, he went off the deep end with this crazy election bullshit fraud stuff from President Trump. So there you go. There's an update for you. Hearing from Senator Bernie Sanders that we don't know what's going to be in this bill yet. He hasn't seen it yet. He's going to read it. We probably won't have a vote. Maybe we'll have it on Saturday, maybe Friday if they get a chance to read it and go through it. $600, maybe $700 stimulus checks direct to the American people. $900 billion total price tag on this thing. We're also seeing that there will be airline money in here as well. Checks of upwards of about $20 million or so, $20 billion for airline, transportation, rental assistance for the American people. So there will be about $26 billion for rental assistance, according to some early figures. Again, airlines, so we're seeing this now. Virus aid includes $17 billion for airlines in this congressional update. And look, again, I come back to this. Defense contractors getting bailed out as part of this as well. They are going to get a nice chunk of change to stay home on paid leave. You know, this is like, oh, the Senate, like corporate congressmen have to get that little bit in there for defense contractors. Also, you know, look, this is the latest data on Americans' checking accounts running down right now. Huge declines in the amount of money that people have saved up as we enter this darkest period in American history. One of the darkest periods in American history. So smash that like button for our channel, please. And right here, there's a little Santa hat on top of our logo. Just tap that and subscribe to the channel. We will be back first thing in the morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. We do a live show every day, Monday through Friday. You know, I spent 20 years as a news anchor and reporter covering Washington. And so it's great to be able to not be bought and sold, have anybody on the corporate level telling me what to cover on my show. So this is independent journalism, and I really thank you kindly for supporting independent journalism, not putting on CNN or MSNBC or all of those big billionaire-run companies. Thank you for supporting what we do right here. Much love to all of you. Get some rest. I think I've been up for 24 straight hours. We will see you first thing in the morning.